When predators meet their match. The massive shadow fell across New York City like a black curtain drawn over the sun. The Carathian dreadnought Void Render hung motionless in Earth's blue sky, its obsidian hull stretching nearly 10 kilometers, from bow to stern. Across the planet's surface, 17 more ships of similar size had taken positions above major population centers. Each vessel carried enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. Commander Zethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, his forearms crossed behind his back in the traditional pose of Carathian authority. His serpentine head turned slowly as he surveyed the primitive world below, through the main viewing port. After 4 centuries of military service and the conquest of 63 worlds, this looked like it would be his easiest victory yet. "Report," Zethkar commanded, his voice carrying the grinding quality of stones scraping together. Sub-Commander Vextar, young by Carathian standards at only 200 years old, consulted his tactical display with nervous efficiency. "Surface scans. Complete, Commander. The humans possess nuclear weapons, but their delivery systems are primitive. Their space-based defenses consist of simple satellites and orbital stations, nothing that could penetrate our shields. What of their military installations? Scattered across the planet's surface. Basic electromagnetic detection systems. Some underground facilities, but our deep scan sensors show them to be simple bunkers and storage areas." Vextar paused, his tail swishing with the confidence of youth. "Sir, I estimate total subjugation within 12 standard hours once we begin bombardment." Zethkar nodded slowly. The Carathian Empire had perfected the art of conquest over millennia. First, they would destroy the planet's military capability with precision orbital strikes. Then, they would demand surrender from whatever government remained. Finally, they would establish mining operations and labor camps to strip the world of its resources. The pattern never changed because it never needed to. "Open communications to the planetary surface," Zethkar ordered. "All frequencies." The bridge fell silent except for the soft humming of the ship's systems. Dozens of Carathian officers worked at their stations, each one confident in their technological superiority. Their empire had conquered star systems when humanity was still discovering fire. "Channel open, Commander." Zethkar stepped forward, his massive frame casting a shadow across the bridge. When he spoke, his words were automatically translated into every language on Earth and broadcast through every communication device on the planet. "Inhabitants of the world you call Earth, I am Commander Zethkar of the Carathian Galactic Empire. Your planet has been selected for integration into our domain. You will surrender your governments and prepare for new management. Resistance will result in the elimination of your species. You have 24 of your hours to comply." The channel closed. Several younger officers on the bridge chittered with amusement. 24 hours was generous by Imperial standards. "Commander," the communications officer called out, "we are receiving a response from the planet's surface." "So soon?" Zethkar was mildly surprised. Most primitive civilizations needed several hours just to understand what was happening to them. "Put it through." The main display screen flickered to life, showing the image of a human female. She was small by Carathian standards, with dark skin and graying hair pulled back in a military style. She wore what appeared to be a uniform, and her brown eyes held a steady, calm expression that seemed oddly familiar to Zethkar. "I am General Maria Santos of Earth Defense Command," the human said, her voice clear and unwavering. "Commander Zethkar, thank you for your message. However, I must inform you that there has been a significant miscalculation." The chittering on the bridge stopped. Vextar's head crest flattened against his skull in confusion. The human continued as if addressing colleagues rather than conquerors. "You see, Commander, Earth is not available for conquest. We suggest you withdraw your fleet from our solar system immediately. You have 48 hours to comply." The bridge erupted in shocked hisses and angry growls. Zethkar raised one of his 4 hands for silence. In all his centuries of conquest, no species had ever responded to Imperial demands with counter-demands of their own. "You dare issue ultimatums to the Carathian Empire?" Zethkar's voice carried the dangerous edge that had intimidated 1,000 worlds. "Do you understand what stands before you?" We have conquered civilizations that were exploring the stars when your species was learning to use tools. General Santos's expression remained unchanged. Commander, I am not threatening you. I am giving you information. We have no desire for conflict, but we will not allow our world to be conquered. This is your opportunity to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Your primitive weapons cannot even penetrate our shields. Zethkar growled. Commander, Santos said quietly, I think you should run deeper scans. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Zethkar stared at the blank screen, his mind racing. Something in the human's manner reminded him of veteran Carathian commanders he had known, beings who had faced impossible odds and survived through cunning and preparation. Vextar, he said finally, run full-spectrum scans of the planet. I want to know about every installation, every weapon, every defensive position they possess. Sir, surely that is unnecessary. Our preliminary scans already showed. Do it. Zethkar's voice carried absolute authority. For the next 6 hours, the Empire's most advanced sensors swept across Earth's surface, probing deeper than the initial survey. What they found began to paint a very different picture of human civilization. Commander, Vextar called out, his voice tight with confusion. I am detecting massive energy signatures beneath Earth's oceans. The installations appear to be much larger than our surface scans indicated. What kind of energy signatures? I'm not certain, sir. The patterns don't match anything in our database. They appear to be some kind of directed energy system, but the power output readings are inconsistent. Zethkar moved to examine the sensor data himself. Deep beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean, his scanners had detected what appeared to be a vast, complex of interconnected installations. Similar readings were appearing beneath every major ocean on the planet. Could these be sensor ghosts? He asked. I don't believe so, sir. The patterns are too consistent and too complex. But every time we try to focus our scans, the readings become unclear, as if something is interfering with our sensors. More reports began flowing in from the other ships in the fleet. Captain Mordak of the Iron Talon reported strange underground facilities beneath Earth's major continents. Captain Sektar of the Blood Moon detected massive movement beneath the planet's ice caps. Each report painted the same picture of a world that was far more complex than initial scans had suggested. Sir, the communications officer announced, we are intercepting human military transmissions. They are not directed at us, but rather internal communications between their forces. Can you translate them? Yes, sir, but they are unusual. The humans keep referring to something called Protocol 7 and mentioning activation sequences for defensive systems we cannot identify. They also keep referencing historical events and mentioning preparation times that suggest they have been planning for this moment for decades. Zethkar felt a chill run down his spine. In 4 centuries of conquest, he had never encountered a primitive species that showed such organization when facing imperial might. Usually there was panic, desperate attempts at negotiation, or suicidal last stands. The humans were displaying none of these behaviors. What else are they saying? They mentioned something called the Deep Archives and referenced technological developments that apparently began over 2 centuries ago. Sir, they also keep mentioning energy readings that suggest they have been monitoring our ships for much longer than we have been in this system. That's impossible. We just arrived. Yes, sir. But they seem to have detailed information about our fleet composition and even our ship classifications. One transmission specifically mentioned the Void Render by name and referenced technical specifications that should be classified Imperial information. Zethkar stared at the tactical display showing Earth's blue surface. Across the planet, more and more installations were revealing themselves. Structures that had been hidden beneath the ocean floor were rising to the surface. Underground facilities were opening massive doors that had been sealed for decades. The humans were not panicking because they had been preparing. Sir, Vextar called urgently. Massive energy spike detected from the planet's surface. Something is happening. The main screen shifted to show Earth's largest continent. Across North America, South America, Asia, Europe, Africa, and Australia, points of brilliant light were beginning to appear. They started as small glows but rapidly grew in intensity. What are those? Zethkar demanded. Unknown, sir. The energy output is increasing exponentially. Whatever they are drawing power from sources we cannot identify. Are they weapons? I don't know, sir. The energy patterns are unlike anything in our database. Zethkar gripped the railing of his command platform as he watched more lights appear across Earth's surface. After 400 years of conquest, he was facing something entirely new. The humans had not been caught unprepared. They had been waiting. Sir, the communications officer announced, we are receiving another transmission from the planet's surface. Put it through. General Santos appeared on the screen again, but this time she was not alone. Behind her stood other humans in various uniforms, and Zethkar could see through a window to the lights that were now blazing across Earth's surface. Commander Zethkar, Santos said calmly, I trust your sensors have detected the changes taking place on our planet. What you are seeing is the activation of defensive systems that have been prepared for this exact scenario. We have been expecting visitors like you for a very long time. How long? Zethkar found himself asking. Nearly 300 years, Commander. We have been preparing since the day we first detected electromagnetic emissions from your empire's expansion into this galactic sector. Behind Santos, one of the other humans stepped forward. He was an elderly male with silver hair and intelligent eyes. Commander, I am Dr. James Wright, Earth's chief xenobiologist. We have studied your technology, your tactics, and your history. We know about the 63 worlds you have conquered. We know about your empire's methods of subjugation. And we know that you consider us primitive because our civilization appears young. Zethkar said nothing, waiting for the revelation he now knew was coming. The truth, Commander, is that appearances can be very deceiving. Humanity is not the young species you believe us to be. We are much, much older than your scans have indicated, and we have been waiting for someone like you to find us. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the void render in complete silence. Outside the viewing ports, the lights on Earth's surface continued to grow brighter, and Zethkar began to understand that his empire had made a terrible mistake. For the first time in 4 centuries of conquest, Commander Zethkar began to consider the possibility of retreat. The sleeping giant awakens. The emergency council meeting convened aboard the Void Render 18 hours after the humans' second transmission. Commander Zethkar stood at the head of the conference table, his forearms spread wide as he reviewed the reports that had been flooding in from every ship in his fleet. The picture they painted defied everything the Carathian Empire understood about galactic civilization. The energy readings are off our scales, reported Captain Mordak of the Iron Talon. His scarred carapace bore the marks of battles across a dozen star systems. Whatever the humans have been building down there, it draws more power than our entire fleet combined. It gets worse, added Captain Sektar of the Blood Moon. My science officer has been analyzing the construction materials visible in the human installations. Some of the alloys match compositions we've only seen in ancient ruins from the old civilizations. Zethkar's tail lashed against the floor, a sign of deep agitation among his species. The old civilizations were the stuff of legend and archaeological speculation. Advanced species that had dominated the galaxy millions of years ago before, mysteriously vanishing, leaving behind only scattered ruins and technology that modern science could barely understand. That's impossible, Subcommander Vextar protested. Humans have only had industrial technology for a few hundred years. Our historical records are clear. Are they? Dr. Kexavol, the fleet's chief scientist, spoke up. Her voice carried the weight of disturbing discoveries. I have been reviewing our database of this sector, and there are inconsistencies. She activated a holographic display that showed the local star system. Our records indicate that this system was surveyed by long-range probes approximately 800 years ago. The reports describe a planet in the early stages of biological development, with no signs of intelligent life. The hologram shifted to show Earth as it appeared now, with its vast cities and industrial development clearly visible from space. However, Dr. Kexavol continued, I have discovered archived sensor logs from a deep space observatory that was destroyed in a pirate raid 600 years ago. Those logs tell a very different story. The display changed to show older readings, fuzzy and incomplete but still recognizable. Earth appeared much as it did now, with clear signs of technological civilization. "This is impossible," Vextar repeated. "The humans themselves claim to have only recently developed spaceflight technology." "Do they?" Zethkar asked quietly. "Or have we been making assumptions based on what they wanted us to see?" Before anyone could answer, the communications officer's voice echoed through the conference room. "Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, and it's directed to every ship in our fleet. Put it through to the main screen." The holographic display shifted to show a new human face. This one was different from the military officers they had spoken with before. He was an elderly male with weathered features and kind eyes, wearing simple civilian clothing. Behind him, Zethkar could see what appeared to be a vast underground chamber filled with crystalline structures and softly glowing panels. "Greetings, people of the Galathian Empire," the human said in accented but fluent Galathian. The fact that he was speaking their language without translation sent a ripple of shock through the assembled officers. "I am Professor Marcus Chen, keeper of the Deep Archives. I believe it is time we had an honest conversation." Zethkar stepped forward. "You speak our language." "I speak many languages, Commander. When you have had as much time to study as we have, you learn to appreciate the diversity of galactic communication." Chen smiled sadly. "We know who you are, Zethkar, son of Morgal, veteran of the Tarsec campaign, conqueror of the Valen Confederacy. We know your history just as we know the history of your empire. How? Because we have been watching you for over 4,000 years." The silence in the conference room was absolute. Chen continued as if he had announced nothing more significant than the weather. "Humanity did not evolve on Earth, Commander. We came here long ago, seeking refuge from a galaxy that had grown too violent, too consumed with conquest and domination. We were tired of war, tired of the endless cycle of empires rising and falling, so we chose to withdraw." The display behind Chen shifted to show images that took Zethkar's breath away. Ancient star maps showing vast human territories spanning entire galactic arms. Fleets of ships that dwarfed anything in the current Galathian armada. Cities that floated between stars, sustained by technology that seemed like magic. "We were once the galaxy's peacekeepers," Chen explained. "For over 2 million years we maintained stability among the younger species, prevented wars, and guided civilizations toward enlightenment. But we grew weary of the responsibility. Every species we helped eventually turned to conquest. Every peace we established eventually crumbled into conflict." "The old civilizations," Dr. Kexavol whispered. "One of them, yes. We were not the only ancients, but we were perhaps the most stubborn. We believed we could create lasting peace through guidance and patience. We were wrong." Chen's expression grew heavy with the weight of eons. "So we made a choice. We gathered our people, selected a young world on the galaxy's edge, and went into hiding. We used our technology to make Earth appear primitive, to make ourselves appear young. We wanted to be left alone. But you continued to watch," Zethkar said, understanding beginning to dawn. "Of course, we knew that eventually the galaxy's new empires would expand far enough to find us. We hoped that by the time they did, they might have learned to value peace over conquest. We hoped we might have been wrong about the nature of galactic civilization." Chen paused, his eyes meeting Zethkar's through the display. "We were not wrong. The installations on your planet," Captain Mordak said. "What are they?" "Insurance," Chen replied simply. "For 4,000 years we have watched empires rise and fall. We have monitored their expansion, their technology, their methods. We have prepared for the day when someone would come to Earth seeking conquest." The display behind Chen shifted again, this time showing the massive installations that had been revealed across Earth's surface. Zethkar now realized that what he was seeing was not primitive defensive technology, but rather ancient systems of unimaginable sophistication that had been carefully hidden for millennia. "Every weapon system in your arsenal, every defensive measure your empire has developed, every tactical doctrine you follow, we have studied it all and prepared countermeasures. The installations you see are not just weapons, Commander. They are archives. Libraries containing the knowledge of civilizations that existed before your empire was even conceived. You're threatening us, Vextar said, his voice tight with fear and anger. No, Chen replied gently. We are informing you. The installations you see represent the accumulated military knowledge of dozens of extinct civilizations. We have had 4,000 years to improve upon it, to adapt it, to prepare it for this exact moment. Zethkar stared at the display, his mind reeling with the implications. If the humans were truly as ancient as they claimed, if they possessed technology that far surpassed the Empire's capabilities, then his fleet was not facing a primitive world. They were facing a sleeping giant that had finally decided to wake up. What do you want? He asked finally. We want to be left alone, Chen said. We want your empire to mark this system as quarantined and to spread the word that Earth is not to be disturbed. In return, we will not interfere with your expansion elsewhere in the galaxy. And if we refuse? Chen's expression remained kind, but something cold entered his eyes. Then we will demonstrate why the ancient civilizations were called ancient. Commander, we will show you what 4,000 years of preparation can accomplish. The display behind Chen shifted one final time, showing a view of space above Earth's surface. For the first time, Zethkar could see that what he had taken for empty space was actually filled with nearly invisible structures, ships that bent light around them, defense platforms that had been hidden from their sensors, energy fields that surrounded the entire planet like a protective shell. How many ships? Zethkar asked quietly. Enough, Chen replied. But Commander, we truly do not wish for conflict. We have seen enough war to last 1,000 lifetimes. We offer you this choice freely, with no malice toward you or your people. Zethkar looked around the conference room at his officers. These were veterans of hundreds of campaigns, beings who had faced death across the galaxy without flinching. Now they stared at the display with expressions of awe and fear. You will allow us to leave unmolested? He asked. Of course. We will even provide safe passage to the edge of our system. All we ask is that you carry our message to the rest of the galaxy. Earth is protected. Leave us in peace. Zethkar considered his options. He could order an attack, pit his fleet against whatever ancient technology the humans possessed. He would likely lose everything, but he might gather enough data to warn the Empire of what they faced. Or he could accept the offer, retreat with his fleet intact, and return to Carathian space with the most important intelligence the Empire had ever received, that the galaxy still held surprises, and some sleeping giants were best left undisturbed. We accept your terms, he said finally. We will leave your system and mark it as restricted territory. Professor Chen smiled, and for a moment he looked like nothing more than a kindly old man sharing wisdom with younger generations. Thank you, Commander. Perhaps in time, when the galaxy has learned to value peace over conquest, we might meet again under better circumstances. The transmission ended, leaving the conference room in thoughtful silence. Outside the viewing ports, the brilliant lights on Earth's surface began to dim, and the nearly invisible defenses faded back into concealment. Prepare the fleet for departure, Zethkar commanded. All ships are to maintain full sensor recordings of everything we have witnessed here. Sir, Vextar asked, what will we tell the High Command? Zethkar considered the question as he watched Earth slowly rotating below them. The humans were returning to their deception, hiding their true nature once again behind the facade of a young civilization. But now he knew the truth, and that knowledge would spread throughout the galaxy. We will tell them the truth, he said, that we found a world that was older and wiser than it appeared, that we found a species that chose peace over conquest, isolation over expansion, and that we were fortunate enough to encounter beings who valued mercy over victory. As the Carathian fleet powered up their faster-than-light drives and prepared to leave Earth's solar system, Zethkar reflected on the lesson he had learned. In a galaxy filled with young, aggressive civilizations all fighting for dominance, it was easy to forget that some species had already walked that path and chosen a different course. The humans had given the Galactic Empire a gift more valuable than any conquered world: the knowledge that true strength sometimes lay in restraint, and that the wisest victories were the ones that never required a battle. As his fleet jumped to hyperspace, Zethkar carried with him the image of Earth shrinking in the distance, once again appearing to be nothing more than a small blue world on the galaxy's edge. But he would never forget what lay hidden beneath that peaceful facade, or the choice that had been offered to him by beings ancient enough to have watched his entire civilization rise from primitive barbarism to galactic empire. The humans had chosen to sleep once more, but their message would spread throughout the galaxy. Not every world was defenseless. Not every species was primitive, and sometimes the greatest predators were the ones who had learned to choose their battles wisely. Earth remained in its quiet corner of space, its secrets hidden once again, waiting patiently for the galaxy to mature enough to deserve the wisdom of the ancients.